Hey friends, what's up? Ash here with Gents. Hope you guys are having an awesome day. It's time for another fragrance guide. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Armani Code. Oh boy. There's a lot of stuff to talk about with this line. I'm going to be going over the ones that you can currently find at discounters pretty regularly. So some of these you're not going to be able to find right now on Giorgio Armani's website or Macy's or Sephora or anything like that, but you can still find them at discounters. So we got 7 ones to talk about. Let's jump into it. Hey guys, I will have each one of these linked in the description below. I don't have the new Armani Code Parfum just yet. It's going to be coming out real soon. So this is kind of like a precursor to that. And if you're watching this in the future, then let me know how that new Armani Code Parfum is. So I guess let's flesh out first what I just talked about, these not being at Sephora or Macy's or Giorgio Armani's website. So there are rumors right now swirling around that when Armani Code Parfum comes out, that and the original Eau de Toilette and the Eau de Parfum version of Armani Code are the only ones that are going to be sticking around, and that everything else is going to be discontinued. Now, do be aware, I've not seen anything concrete that says for sure that's what's happening, but those are the rumors right now. And part of what's fueling those rumors is, well, the fact that you can't find a lot of these at stores, that doesn't help. But also the new Armani Code Parfum is in a new bottle style, completely new bottle style. And apparently Armani Code EDT and EDP are moving into that new bottle style, but none of the other fragrances in the Code line are mentioned with that new bottle style. So a lot of people have taken that to mean, oh, so those 3 will exist in the new bottle style. All the other ones are going away. As of this video, the only Armani codes in stock on Armani's website are the EDT, the EDP, and Absolu. Same thing on Sephora, EDT, EDP, Absolu, and on Macy's, only the EDT and EDP. So not great looking. So just wanted to get that out of the way right here at the beginning of the video. Also guys, as we jump into this, I wanna give you a new code that I got for LuckyScent.com. It is Gents10. It'll save you 10% off the whole website. If you're unaware of Lucky Scent for some reason, pretty much the biggest niche and indie retailer in the US, and I have them linked in the description below. Also, the other codes, of course, twistedlily.com, Gents10, 10% off that website, jomashop.com, Gents8, $8 off any order over 110. We will start with Armani Code Eau de Toilette. This one came out in 2004. And one thing that this line does really well is it incorporates the DNA of the original Armani Code across most of the flankers. So you can usually pretty easily pick out bits and pieces from this fragrance and the flankers that came after it. Now you may say to yourself, well, that makes sense, man, right? The DNA of the original should be in the flankers. You should be able to pick it up because they're flankers coming after the original. But it doesn't always work out that way. Look at Azzaro Wanted. That smells pretty much like Invictus, Azzaro's style of Invictus, and the flankers that came after it are completely different. It has warm spices and sweetness, has a little bit of a powdery undertone, actually more powdery than most of the flankers that came after it. The leather and the tonka in here gives it a little bit of a dark vibe, but then that's offset and balanced a little bit by the sweetness that the fragrance has. It has a good gentlemanly feel, while not coming across too overly mature. Even though it's almost 2 decades old, still works really well. It's a really nice, as I said, cool weather fragrance and a great nighttime scent. After that, we're gonna start going in order from 2016 forward, because those are the ones that you're gonna be able to still find. 2016 gave us Code Profumo. So this one is gonna be less powdery than the Eau de Toilette. It's gonna be sweeter and it's gonna have much better performance. One of the drawbacks potentially for Armani Code Eau de Toilette, the original, is the performance. A lot of people don't get great longevity or projection from that one nowadays. You'll hear a lot of people say that the original Eau de Toilette when it first came out was much stronger, but that the current iteration, like if you were to go to a store and buy it now, is a lot weaker. So this one, you're not gonna have that problem. Projects heavily, lasts a really long time, has an awesome sparkle in the opening, this sparkly sweetness, this effervescence that some people will compare to smelling like a vanilla Coke or a root beer, depending on how you pick it up. So this has a creamy tonka, amber, vanilla base that gives you that warmth, that sweetness that you pick up pretty much right away and into the dry down. Also has leather in the dry down, a good amount of spices and green mandarin off the top. It's more attention grabbing nowadays than the Eau de Toilette, so it'll get you more compliments more consistently. It's also a little bit more youthful than the Eau de Toilette, but just like the Eau de Toilette, better suited for fall and winter. So after that came 2017's Armani Code Colonia. Now this one did not catch on as much as Armani Code Profumo and some of the ones that came after it. This is going to be more of a fresher, warm weather take on the Armani Code DNA. It also works pretty well in fall, I would say, and it's a little bit like you took Armani Code and mixed it with pieces of Versace's Eros. And you would think hearing that, Code mixed with bits of Eros, I bet that'll take off. I bet that'll be a hit, but not really. That being said, Armani Code Colonia has grown on me over time. At first, I was kind of wishy-washy on it, didn't think it was all that great. But as I wore it, I did realize it's got really good performance for a summertime fragrance. Spring, summer, fall, really, but summertime. Lasts a long time, projects well, big compliment puller. It's got a different take on a fresh type of scent because it has this like creaminess underneath everything, which again ties it back into the original Code. So it's this great mix of freshness and sweetness, has a great compliment factor, as I said, and not too many people are wearing this one. So Code Colonia overlooked much better than some people give it credit for, including myself initially. 2018 saw Armani Code A-List, which also did not take off in a big way, though this one was presented as a limited edition. So this is another one that's a little bit of a fresher take on that Armani Code DNA. It's woodier than Armani Code Colonia, a little bit less sweet than Code Colonia as well. This one does have great versatility. I would say out of all of the Armani Code fragrances that we're going to talk about here today, it's probably the most versatile because this one you could wear year round, whereas some of the other ones you're not going to want to wear in summer. And then maybe like Code Colonia in winter, you would go for something else. But this one has a really nice balance of woodiness, freshness, and sweetness without going too sweet that makes it plausible as a year-round fragrance. It has a slight barbershop quality to it in the opening, and then as it dries down, it gets a little bit closer to the original Eau de Toilette as far as how it smells without being quite as powdery and while having better performance. It also smells really classy as well, so that's a nice added bonus. You know, you could potentially even wear this one as an office fragrance or signature scent. So after that, we're going to 2019, my personal favorite, Armani Code Absolu. So this has a similar Dr. Pepper, Vanilla Coke, Root Beer, whatever you want to call it, opening to Armani Code Profumo, but it's not quite as aggressive. And while it is definitely sweet, it's not quite as aggressively sweet. It has a smoothed out richness to it. It smells ever so slightly more elegant, ever so slightly more mature than Armani Code Profumo does, but it does not have as much performance as Armani Code Profumo. So while this one is good with the longevity and projection, Profumo is better. I think the dry down here smells absolutely fantastic. Huge compliment pulling fragrance for me personally. Awesome fall and wintertime fragrance, great evening fragrance. It's not quite as youthful as Profumo, but for me, it works a little better. And you could almost, in a way, think of this as like a reimagining of Code Profumo more than you could a reimagining of the original Eau de Toilette, because this is closer to Profumo than the original EDT. And for me anyway, you could almost draw Profumo back to Armani Code Ultimate, which is discontinued now. So kind of like two different lines of Armani Code going on there. After that, 2020, Armani Code Absolu Gold. I have the little signature bottle from when it first came out. Big thing that'll jump out at you with Armani Code Absolu Gold, that is a mouthful, is the addition of iris in here. And iris has become so popular over the past couple of years, which I'm not going to complain about because I love the note. Now, obviously, with this being called Armani Code Absolu Gold, the Armani Code flanker that this is closest to is Code Absolu. Now, when you hear iris, you may be thinking Dior Homme Intense, Valentino Uomo Intense, Gentleman Eau de Parfum. You're thinking that lipsticky, makeup-y, creamy, dense iris. You're thinking maybe that's what's in here. And it is not. Nah, it's a very sweet iris note. It doesn't really go too powdery, so it doesn't go all that far toward the Prada side of things, you know, like Prada L'Homme, and it's also not over toward the Dior Homme side. It's somewhere in the middle. It does, though, lean a little bit more toward the fresh side of things, so it's like a fresh, sweet floral iris note. It's really nice and plays more a nuance, that Armani Code Absolu DNA. It's a really nice change, a nice tweak to the Absolu DNA, though I do still prefer the original because it does command attention a little bit more. But as I said, this one is a little bit classier. And this one also did not catch on quite as much, but it was another one that was sort of a limited edition release, so you wouldn't expect it to. So that is going to bring us to 2021 Armani Code's Eau de Parfum. This is something that we've seen across multiple lines, which is where instead of doing these break-off flankers where it's something completely different with a different name each time, you're just going EDT, EDP, and then probably Parfum, and then like Elixir or Parfum Extreme, Parfum Intense, something like that. Who knows? I can't see the future. But Eau de Parfum. So you got Eau de Toilette, now Eau de Parfum. Obviously, this one is going to be closer to the EDT because this is just like a reimagining, a modernization of the EDT, of the original. So what they set up with Profumo, Absolu, and Absolute Gold, at least for right now, it looks like that style of Armani Code fragrance is being abandoned or pushed to the side. You get a solid dose of lavender that comes out in this fragrance, so much so that some people have compared it to Luna Rosa's Sport and even the original Le Male. And definitely the lavender in here is noticeable. You can pick it up pretty much right away. So yeah, a simplified way of thinking of this is that it is indeed a modernized take on the original Eau de Toilette, which should make it appeal to more people nowadays than the original. And this one strikes a nice balance between sweetness and freshness. So if you like the Code DNA, but Absolu was too sweet for you, Profumo was too sweet for you, then the Eau de Parfum might work out great. Kind of a Goldilocks fragrance in the lineup. And it's also pretty versatile, maybe more so than the EDT. I think you can pull this off in spring, fall, or winter pretty easily, daytime or nighttime. On the whole, I would say that the Armani Code line is really solid. Now, there are a lot of discontinued fragrances that I didn't talk about because the only place you're going to find them is on eBay, and generally people don't like it when I talk about discontinued scents. So we're going to try to keep that out of this one. But in general, this is a lineup that's really well done. And even the fragrances that don't get so much love on fragrance websites and places like that are actually, I feel like anyway, a little bit better than people give them credit for. Like Code Colonia and Code A-List. They're not that bad. So as I said, my personal favorite, Code Absolu. I love this stuff. It is a fall and wintertime staple for me. Like I said before, it has just the right amount of sweetness, and people love sweet fragrances. Just as far as like your average person, they really seem to be drawn to them as long as you don't go too crazy heavy. Really good performance, classy enough that you can dress this up or wear it more casually. Code Absolu is awesome. If you're younger, if you're just after compliments, after positive attention and good performance, Code Colonia is probably going to be the way to go. If you want one that has a little bit more versatility, more classiness, slightly more maturity, go with A-List, but do understand it's not as sweet as Colonia is. The Eau de Toilette is a modern classic, set all of this stuff into motion, but I think for nowadays, for most people, considering the current iteration of this, if you go to a store to pick one up, you would be better suited getting one of the other fragrances, but it still deserves props. Code Profumo has the most punch out of all these, so if you're looking for just the strongest one, it's gonna be this one. And as far as the fragrance community goes, I'd say this is probably the most popular of the whole bunch. And it's also a great clubbing fragrance, night out fragrance for cooler weather, and a little more youthful than Absolute, but maybe not as classy as Absolute Gold. I think this is the most elegant, most refined of the entire bunch. The iris in here is an iris that's really easily accessible. It doesn't go too far toward one extreme or the other. So even people that really hate iris sometimes will go for this one. And then the Eau de Parfum, kind of a jack of all trades, a modernization, a twist on the original that most people seem to actually say makes it better than the original. So that one is just a great one to have for lots of different situations. And it still has that Armani Code DNA front and center, more so than pretty much any of these other flankers. Thank you guys for hanging with me here until the end. Appreciate it so much. Let me know in the comments which Armani Code is your favorite, and it can be a discontinued one. If you love one of the ones that's no longer with us, let us know. Thank you for hanging with me. Thanks for your support. Stay safe out there. See you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys later.